Passion, purpose, possibilities. They're all right there. But sometimes we need a little push. And that's where SheSez comes in. Think of it as a master class taught by the world's most interesting women, sharing stories and ideas, because girlfriends help each other. This is SheSez with Linda Grasso. Hello and welcome to SheSez. Most of us watch what we eat, often buying premium products with high-quality organic ingredients. We only want the best for our bodies. But what about what we put on our face? That was the question that perplexed Sheena Yaitanes. She wanted lipstick that was non-toxic with pure natural ingredients. Lipstick that wasn't only healthy, but actually felt good on your lips. Problem was, she couldn't find it. Plus, Sheena couldn't get her hands on natural shades that complemented her complexion. A chemist by trade, Sheena started experimenting at home, combining botanical oils with other clean ingredients and formulating lipsticks. In 2015, it all came together with the launch of Kosas cosmetics. Today, the line also includes tinted botanical face oils and blush highlighter duos, all of which can be purchased online at Kosas.com and at 200 stores around the world. Sheena, welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
I don't know if you guys can see out there, all you YouTube watchers, but I can see the dewy complexion of what you do.
You can.
Yeah, it's different than the kind of flat matte look that so many makeups give you.
Yes, I don't believe in erasing your face and only to like paint it back on. So I'm already three-dimensional and I'm going to go with that. And so I like to put things on that highlight rather than really having to start over on a blank canvas. I already have a face.
The fact that you also incorporate botanical oils in your cosmetics, is that part of the dewiness as well?
It is part of the dewiness. It's part of the performance story as well. So botanical oils are really like the cornerstone of everything in the Kosis collection. And the reason that I use them is actually kind of a big story. Because of course it sounds really good. Like it sounds almost like you're doing something really healthy for yourself. And like these oils have all these vitamins and it feels kind of like you're eating a salad. So I think that's one way that you can approach formulation, which is to look at the botanical oils by their common names and say like green tea, that sounds really good. Or like macadamia nut, that sounds really good. Like I'm going to do that from a food perspective. I don't work that way. So one of my big issues with makeup, and the reason I started a brand was because I had issues with makeup. Otherwise, I would have just used what was available. But one of my big issues with makeup was how it sat on your face. And what I felt was that we can use lipstick as an example. When you would use a traditional, like any lipstick really, it would sort of sit on top of the lips. And then you'd maybe have to go in there and get a tissue and blot it and wiggle it around with your finger and do all these like little tricks so that it looks a little bit more lived in, so that it looks like it kind of settles into your face and it doesn't look like it's sitting on top of your face, but is a natural extension of your face. And so when I was formulating, I was thinking that requires a lot of skill that maybe some women might not have. And those women should be allowed to have that same effect and that same look without having that skill. So how can we achieve that?
So you're feeling like makeup that has a little bit of absorption, that actually absorbs a titch, not to make it disappear, but sort of looks more natural. That's your sort of supposition in formulating this company, one of them.
Yeah.
I want to go back. I want to go back to that kind of light bulb moment to where you thought, this is needed. There's a white space. I have an idea. You had gone to school, you got your undergraduate degree you were a chemist by trade.
Yeah, in biology and chemistry.
Who knew that would come in handy with this? But tell me about that and tell me what your career trajectory had been up to that point.
Yeah, I was pre-med actually. I was going to apply to medical school. And so I majored in biology and chemistry. I took my MCAT. I actually filled out my applications and I had to press send. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I had to think about what the rest of my life was going to look like. And I asked myself, like, what is every day at work going to look like? Like, this is going to be every day for the rest of your life. And I hate hospitals. It's really that simple. Like, I could not imagine myself spending every day of my life dealing with what happens inside of a hospital. It doesn't work for me.
Was that really just an automatic thing at that moment when you had to hit send? You knew you couldn't do it. Then did you go home and sort of agonize over it? Did you tell your parents? I mean, how did you sort of get the guts to really move away from that concept that had been driving you for so many years?
I did have to break the news to my parents.
How'd that go?
I formed, or I had a speech prepared. So, and I was very convincing, and it wasn't a debate. I was just informing them. So they kind of had to deal with it at that point. I had something inside me where like there was like this entrepreneur that was inside me. And I felt it so deeply from a very young age. And I knew I was going to run my own business. I didn't know exactly what it was going to be at the time that I decided not to pursue medical school, but I knew I was going to run my own business.
So you went back and you got your MBA from Chapman University. Yes. Did you have a cosmetics line in the back of your head at that point?
At that point, I did. At that point, after that conversation, I did have this idea. My mom worked in makeup when I was growing up. So
what did she do?
She was a rep. She represented brands like Clarins and Clinique and Estee Lauder. And so I grew up in this house full of makeup and I gravitated towards it. Like I played with makeup as a toy. That was what I spent my time. I would come home from school and like typically you would go and like play with your toys or do whatever you do in your room. I would go in my mom's bathroom and learn the names of every single lipstick from Chanel or like every single lipstick from Lancome and like the scents and what they felt like and how they wore and how they could mix together and like create looks. And I was probably 8 years old, like 9, 10 years old when I was doing that. So I had this like tremendous knowledge and love of makeup, but I felt that, and at the time there was really only one brand that was geared towards anyone sort of younger, which was MAC. And I loved what they were doing. And that was all that I used, but I thought that that was our only option and there wasn't anything else. And like a person like me who had a tremendous knowledge of makeup could spend hours going through every single option and finding the best ones. But I would look at other women's makeup bags or friends of mine and say, they don't have that same skill or that same interest. And why should they? And what if I made a brand where I had only the best things?
So you started out with lipstick.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I want to know, how does this all go down? You start researching online, you start figuring out natural, whole, non-toxic, paraben-free ingredients. You start mixing it at your kitchen table. Set the stage.
Yeah,
I want to hear the details. I love these stories.
Well, lipstick. Do you want to know what really happened?
Yeah, I want to know what really happened.
So I actually, I started talking to makeup artists and people that I knew in the business at this point. Life had happened and it was much later than when I had the idea. This was 10 years after the idea, after business school and everything. I started talking to makeup artists who had either had any experience starting their own brand or knew someone that did, so that I could find the right kind of cosmetic chemist and partner that I could work with. So what was great was that I obviously spoke that language. So when I was going in there, and chemistry isn't just chemistry, there's many different types of chemistry, and I knew that. So I knew enough to know what I didn't know and that I was going to need the right partner. And I found that. I got very lucky. And I looked very hard, and it's actually very difficult to find someone to manufacture makeup because makeup manufacturers don't market themselves. They like to be behind the scenes. And they're very difficult to obviously form a relationship with, and for them to take a chance on a young brand, a non-existent brand, really, that's just an idea at this point. So
tell me about your partner. Who did your partner end up being?
I can't tell you that.
You keep it confidential?
But, yeah, we keep it confidential.
And why is that? Just out of curiosity.
Because it's a trade secret.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
The hair's raising on my arms.
Yeah. What was important to me was that I was able to find somebody who didn't put any gaps or didn't put any distance between myself and the actual chemist in the lab. I needed to go in there. So that is non-traditional for a brand owner.
Yeah,
Typically, you'll have like a sales associate or a liaison that you're going to talk with in terms of results and more of like marketing of how this product can be approached versus I'm going to come in there and we're going to talk about ingredients and why they're in here. So the first question was always, why is this in here? And I don't really care how lipstick is formulated. That doesn't matter to me because we're going to do it differently now. We're going to find another way. There are many ways to skin a cat.
So what are some of the icky ingredients that you said we're not putting in our lipstick? And what are some of the healthier, more ingredients that are more holistic and make your lips feel moist and good? I mean, I hate that when you put on lipstick and your lips feel dry and you feel like you have to put on chapstick.
That's unacceptable.
And you've brought me a little sample of yours. I'll be letting you know how that all goes down later. But from what I understand from women who've tried it, your lips feel moist. Your lips feel good.
They should feel good. It's sitting on your skin all day long. Like, why would it not be helping your skin at the same time? That seems simple, but someone has to take the initiative to make that happen. So lipstick is an emulsion of butters and waxes and oils. That's what it really is. It's a solid form of wax, oil, and butter, and some combination of those things.
And what part of that is bad?
Those things inherently aren't bad, but then sometimes the things that keep them together, the stabilizers, and sometimes what I have come to see is that there are certain traditions in cosmetic formulation that people just follow because they do, and you don't need to do it that way. It's like when you make salad dressing, like, okay, you can use like different types of lecithins and xanthan gums and things to keep it together, or you can use mustard. It works the same.
That's such an interesting approach. Yeah. I believe that too. I remember reading about the things that hold together salad dressing and going, nope, I'm just doing olive oil and my different vinegars, and I don't even buy bottled salad dressing anymore.
No, you don't need to. But if you put mustard in, it will hold the oil and vinegar together. That's what an emulsifier does. It holds like two phases together.
So did you have to embark on a project with your partner to find out about products that hold it together that are healthier?
Not really, actually, because we use things that were more commonly known. So I wasn't looking for strange synthetic ingredients. We said, what are things that we know of that already that do this? Like, what kind of a wax would be pliable versus brittle? Well, there are a few options, and let's choose one. What kind of an oil would absorb into your skin? So what does that mean? That means it has to have a particle size that's small enough to do that. Well, there's no synthetic, so we can go and try to make a tiny particle size synthetic oil, or we can just use any botanical oil because they're all small enough to do that.
So I would imagine at the beginning when you're meeting with your partner and you're trying, you're in the formulation period, you're probably really excited, right?
Yes, I was excited and I was nervous and I was scared, and I discovered something about myself during that process, which was that this project will only move forward if I make decisions. So I could chase perfection. I could say this lipstick tube is 1 millimeter too big and I can't do it. Or I could say this lipstick tube is 1 millimeter too big. I'll address that later and I'll pull the trigger now because done is better than perfect.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty bold.
Yes, you have to be.
Had you always been bold in your life, or was this a new thing that you learned about yourself?
I think I had been, but quietly. I'm not like bold looking, but maybe bold acting. Yeah.
So you surprised yourself a little bit.
I was ready. I don't know. I don't think I surprised myself. I knew I could. I wasn't terribly surprised by it, and it felt very right. But I also I'm still a calculated risk taker. I wasn't being irresponsible. That was important to me.
Well, one thing you had going for you was sort of, you went about it in a really smart way. You partnered with someone who had a whole different set of knowledge than you, kind of knew more than you did. You were a chemist. You understood about blending and combining ingredients and shelf life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you had an MBA.
I did. I knew what it was I knew at least in a basic sense what it would take to assemble. Because what are we really doing when you're making a consumable good? You're making something and then you're making the world know about it. It's really that simple. But I mean, how you do that, of course, like there are many ways to do that. With something like formulating cosmetics, like you can make something at a small scale, but to scale it in a production capacity, that's a different set of skills. So that's not something you can really do in your kitchen.
So you launch in 2015. And shortly thereafter, you get a lucky break.
We did get a lucky break shortly thereafter. I launched in 2015, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And
So for a couple of months where you just do, you're working, you're putting it on the website, and you're like, nobody's really, little buys are trickling in, right? But you're trying not to get discouraged.
Yeah, absolutely.
You self-finance, probably.
Self-finance with a very small amount. That's something I would do differently if I went back. But we self-finance with a very, very small amount of startup capital. And I invested in one thing, really, which was PR. And that was when our first break came. And it's really been a series of consistent breaks that's built the business. I can't say that it was exactly one thing, but that first thing, which was a placement in a gift guide in the San Francisco Chronicle.
So your publicist sent a sample to whoever writes about gift guides there.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, you get in the newspaper.
Yeah. And it was like surreal kind of, because there were only 3 makeup products in this gift guide. One of them was NARS. The other one was a very well-known brand. And then there was us. And it was just 3 pieces of makeup and this giant picture of Kosis lipstick. And it was in print of all things. So like I had no way to track click through or if it was driving traffic to our site, but sales started coming in very rapidly right as soon as it was published. And that was the day that I knew. And I like called my friends and I said, December 20th, everyone, December 20th was the day that we knew we had a viable business.
Wow, that had to be really exciting. Mm-hmm. I want to skip back for a second. You said if you had to do it again, you'd do the financing differently. Are you suggesting that you go out and raise a round? Because doing that that's just so hard to launch a cosmetics company. I mean, that's a Herculean hill to climb.
It is.
Wait, is that what you're suggesting you would have done?
I recently climbed it. I wouldn't necessarily have raised a round pre-launch, but I would have put a lot more of my own resources behind it because I would have trusted myself. I mean, I can't say that I would, if I do this again with what I know now, then yes, I would have put more personal resources behind it and really come out with a bigger splash. I think I was very timid and worried and risk averse and had recently had a baby. And I think that new mothers naturally are extra risk averse. So it was impacting the way that I was kind of sort of launching the brand too, quietly, carefully.
That's intense. Mothers are risk adverse because having a baby is just so depleting of all your energy, as you know. How old is your child now?
She's 4.5 now.
Wow.
She was 8 months old when I started working on the brand.
Wow. How did you manage that?
I felt like I got way more organized when I had a baby. Suddenly I had all these extra hours in the day because every minute counts and every minute is accounted for when you have a baby. And everything was on such a strict schedule with feeding and naps and sleep and everything. And not only did I become more organized, but also I had to ask myself at that age, that when she was at that age, I looked at my own daughter and I said, I want her to grow up one day and feel that her thoughts and ideas are very important and that she matters the most. And the only way that I can teach her that is if I show her that I matter the most and that my thoughts and ideas are important and that I want to do something and I actually did it.
You said that your mother was in the cosmetics industry with traditional cosmetics, the kind we all grew up with. Yeah. Actually, I didn't grow up with those. Those were all too expensive. I did Maybelline and CoverGirl and all those, but you had really good cosmetics. Yes. Was your mom instrumental? Did she try some of your products? Did she give you feedback?
She did not. No. I had a tricky relationship with my mom growing up and my family in general. My parents are immigrants. I'm a first-generation Iranian. If I thought I was risk averse when I had a baby, you have seen nothing. She came from a background of very large brands. Like the idea of an indie brand didn't seem possible to her. Plus she worked in department stores and she felt that she saw indie brands come and go because that wasn't the right sales channel for them. But that's not how she thought of it. It was just that they failed, businesses fail, and this is a huge risk. And so I chose wisely just to not talk about it with her. I said, you know what? I will wait until she talks about it with me, until she hears about it from someone other than me.
Well, that's actually a really healthy approach, to kind of accept that you guys are cut from different cloths.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. She's a product of where she was coming from. You're a product of where you are and where you've come from. and instead of, having that clash or going to her for affirmation and the thumbs up, just kind of backing off and letting that unspool organically.
Yeah, that's exactly what I
Well,
did.
tell me that she wears your makeup now.
Now she does, yeah.
Okay.
She told me the other day, she's like, I heard you have a very successful company. I was like, thank you. Yes, it's been 3 years in the making.
Okay, so you have this big break with the San Francisco Chronicle. You had a couple of other good placements, and you start selling. And wow, you're psyched. Do you add people to the business? Tell me about how you grew the business. When I want to get into your new products that you've recently launched, but how did you know it was time to expand, and how did you?
We actually grew very slowly for the first 2 years. So we stayed a self-funded company for 2 years. After that initial investment, the personal investment that we made, the company started to run itself. But of course, not massive amount, but we were a profitable company. And so we had, there was just 3 of us doing really all the operations and a variety of contracted individuals and experts that could lend pieces of their time to help us grow the brand. During that time, we went from 4 lipsticks to 8 lipsticks. And then after that, we launched 6 blushes in 2 different categories.
And again, you're still limiting because you're about the whole Kosas brand is about not having so many choices, not opening that makeup drawer and having jammed with a cajillion products. It's about minimalism, right? You're trying to keep it simple for women, right?
It is. It's about thoughtful choice. It was really having 8 lipsticks. They break down into categories. For example, bright red. In each category, we only have 2 options, a cool option and a warm option. And so instead of having 25 different reds, where if a woman approaches and says, I need a red lipstick, and now she has to choose between 25 red lipsticks, and that's confusing, and she doesn't know which one the right one is. And if I chose this one, what about the other 24? Did I do the wrong thing? By having 2 distinct options, she can say, I choose this one, and this is why. And this is why I didn't choose the other one. And it's empowering her to understand why she chose what she chose and to not have that paralysis of choice and like that feeling that like that tiny feeling of depression you get when you don't know if you chose the right thing or not.
I'll tell you one thing that I get really annoyed with in the makeup industry, and I'm assuming you don't do this because you have limited products, is you get addicted to a certain lip shade or blush and they stop, or nail polish, and they stop continuing it. And they make one just a titch different, with a different name. And you have to go 30 times. You don't have it. I keep trying. When I'm really addicted to a shade, I'll even go to like the cheapy places. Like, does TJ Maxx have it on their cosmetic? You're trying to find the old stuff that's been discontinued. But I think they do that because they want to just keep, they feel like, they got to keep it fresh and you'll keep buying more in that slightly different shade. And why is that?
What I saw as I got deeper into the business was that beauty uses new launches as their marketing strategy. That's that's a traditional way to market beauty, is the newness itself is the marketing, which is unfair because makeup requires education, information, guidance, all sorts of things that we can answer in marketing in an entertaining way, in a helpful way, versus just saying, here's a new product, you should buy it because of some urge to buy something new, which I have seen makeup marketers believe that women buy lipstick and they don't know why, because they just hysterically want to buy new things. And these are typically men that say this. That's not true.
Well, we do kind of get like that with clothes, though, if you're really honest. Sometimes I go in my closet, I'm like, I already have that shirt. Why did I? Because I wanted something new. How many white shirts can you have?
They need to look fresh.
Yeah.
That's why, right?
Let's talk about launching new products. So you did lipstick. When did you decide to get into the tinted face oil and your blush highlighter compacts that come in, I think, both powder and cream?
Yes, the blush highlighter compacts came 2 years after we launched the brand, after the initial launch. So it took 2 years for us to launch the second category. That was a long time.
Yeah, was that a harder formulation to come up with?
It was a harder formulation, absolutely. It was also when we saw that we couldn't sustain our growth on just our own earnings and that we needed to invest more to grow faster in R&D, in distribution, in sales and marketing. We really had something new that we needed to talk about, and we needed to educate our customers properly. And we needed more money to do that.
So you come up with these new products and you put them online. How are they doing?
They're doing great. So tinted face oil came 6 to 8 months after that. That's a recent launch for us. It's been out for a couple months.
I had never even heard of tinted face oil until I looked at your website. Talk to me about that.
Yeah,
Educate me, Sheena.
Tinted face oil is not a thing. And that's why.
What made you come up with that concept, and what does it do that's different than other products?
It's a foundation. It does what foundation does. And I wanted foundation that was so easy that you could just rub it into your face, slap it on. That's really a big part of like the Kosis ethos, is that you should kind of just be able to smear it around and it should work. And foundation isn't that way. So foundation takes some time. You have to set it, you have to lay it down, you have to blend it really well and thin it out and all that. It requires some expertise, and it also requires time. It's not something you can just like throw on and go.
So I don't think of a tinted face oil or any kind of oil as being coverage. Usually we put on foundation because we want more of a matte look. We don't, all kinds of skin has freckles or, red spots or, do you want that matte glow? Does oil cover up adequately?
So the part that covers is the pigment. You can put as much pigment in there as you want to. So tinted face oil is pigment suspended in oil. It's a blend of pigment and oil. We chose to make the product have a light to medium coverage. We could definitely have gone heavier on the coverage.
I see. So I'm visualizing sort of a clear thing of oil with a slight tint. It's actually an oil-based foundation.
It's actually an oil-based. Yeah, it has more coverage than a tinted moisturizer, but less coverage than a full coverage matte foundation would.
Wow. I see that as like true innovation.
It is true innovation. And interestingly, it's not by us using any unheard of strange form of chemistry. It's using botanical chemistry.
So tell me about the botanical oils in that. I'm really into botanical oils.
Yeah, of course. It's a blend of 6 oils. So the oils are meant to be really balanced in terms of their vitamin contents, in terms of their their fatty acid content, so that it can work for a variety of skin types. Whether you're dry or oily, it should be balancing. So predominantly jojoba oil, which has a very similar structure to the oil that your skin naturally produces. Avocado oil, which is a deeply penetrating oil. So it takes all those vitamins really deeper into the layers of your skin. Red raspberry seed oil, which is a toning. I don't know if you've ever heard about drinking red raspberry seed tea when you're pregnant. It tones the uterus. So it tones tissue that's dependent upon hormones. Skin is one of those tissues. So it's very toning and clarifying. Rosehip seed oil, also very clarifying. It has an astringent property, so it cuts the other oils. Green tea seed oil, which is a famous antioxidant, and it really is one of the best ones, really high in polyphenols, really helps to not only keep the oils inside the foundation from oxidizing, but the oils on your skin from oxidizing, and then any other environmental damage too.
So a botanical foundation, an oil-based foundation, sounds really appealing to me because I have dry skin. But you just mentioned or alluded to the fact that someone with oily skin could use that as well. How does that work?
Yeah, I have oily skin and I love using oils. So I discovered this idea when I was in college because we were learning about fatty acids and oils, and looking at a fat from a molecular level is different than thinking I have oily skin. Like dissolves like. So the only thing that can dissolve an oil is an oil, not necessarily like a soap. So an oil dissolves an oil better. A soap is just it's the long tail of an oil with like a thing on the head. So
I'm getting a visual, but go ahead.
Okay. So when skin is oily, the best way to dissolve that oil that your skin's producing is by putting another oil on it. And sometimes skin produces oil on a feedback mechanism too. So if it feels like it doesn't have any, it's going to produce more. So if we add the right oils, the right nourishing oils that can penetrate deeply into the places in your skin that fatty acids are produced, and tell them you're good, you're healthy, you don't need to do anything right now, they'll slow down their oil production too.
So Sheena, what's the ultimate goal for Kosas? Where do you want to go? You sell it online. You're in 200 stores across the world. A lot of them are high-end retail. Some of them are holistic beauty. What's your vision? Where do you want to go with this?
We want to be a household name. So Kosis will continue to expand until we have the entire face covered in the Kosis philosophy. So we'll go to eyes next. We haven't touched eyes yet, but what if there's a way where you can put eyeshadow on where it's in a similar process where it's like a smear and it looks great. So we're working on that. The eyebrow is another area that we're working on. We'll work on everything, every part of the face, in using the thoughtful botanical chemistry that we use throughout all of our products and potentially into other categories too.
So I read before you came in that your husband is a director. So is he a movie director or TV?
He's a TV director.
And he travels.
He does.
So, girl, you got a lot on your plate. You got a little one at home, and then he has 2 sons that also live with you or live
Half
with you
the time,
part-time.
yeah.
What does he think of your journey and your success? And how do you manage all of it? Seriously, besides being organized. I mean, are there days when you look back and you're like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah, of course. And if I ever have a day where I feel like it's too much, I just give myself the permission to quit. I'm like, it's okay, you could just quit. Oh. And then that's just knowing that is enough to make me, I never would.
No, but I like that. Give yourself permission to quit.
Yeah.
And then if you stay in, it says something.
Exactly. Like, you have a choice here. I remind myself, I absolutely have a choice. At any time, I have a choice.
I love that. So tell me, what does your husband think of your endeavor and your success with Kosas?
He is extremely supportive. He loves it. He's really creative. He's very sensitive. He wasn't very involved in the business really at all up until recently when I hired him. So he loves telling this story, which is that he works for me now.
Did he do that commercial on your website?
He did that one. Yeah. So we did.
It's very good, by the way.
Yeah. We did 3 campaigns together.
Wow, that really helps having a husband who knows how to do that stuff.
It does. It's our competitive advantage.
Does it kind of impact your marriage? The fact that you have your whole endeavor. I mean, you share a child together in a life, and you're in love. I get that, but you also have your own whole other world that you dip into, that fuels you. Is that a healthy thing in your relationship?
It actually very much is a healthy thing in our relationship. My husband likes that. So he likes that I have a life of my own and that we come together and we have something to talk about. And also, if we are disagreeing, we work together. So we have to put that aside and still be a team for the business. And it actually helps us like temper emotions a lot within our marriage too.
Sheena, I end every episode by asking women for takeaways. What can women who are looking to craft their next chapter, what can they learn or take away from your story?
I think that really abiding by the principle that something being done is better than something being perfect is a really important place to start, because it's great to strive for perfection, but not to the point where you get in your own way. I think that sometimes you have to look at yourself and just actively step out of your own way. Just move aside and let it happen.
I think that's really interesting advice. Sheena, thanks so much for coming on and sharing the Kosas story. Really want to try some of your products now.
Thank you. I hope you do.
Yeah, no, I'm into botanical oils, so this is going to be good.
Yeah, they'll feel good.
Thanks again.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for joining us. If you like what you hear, hit subscribe. New episodes of SheSez will automatically be downloaded. And quite frankly, when you're a subscriber, it's a lot easier to listen while you're driving the car or walking the dog. You can tap your podcast app and simply hit play. And if you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, write a review. It takes a minute and will help us stay alive. Just tap where it says see more episodes. Scroll down to the very bottom and you'll see where you can fill in the stars. We'd love 5, of course, and write a review. Don't forget to press send. Thanks again, and we'll see you with a new episode next Tuesday.